Hello and welcome to the podcast. I have a special guest with me today. His name is, it says Charles Gindele, but I think everybody that knows you calls you Charlie Gindele. How you doing, Charlie?
Good, Rich. Yeah, most people call me Charlie. My family calls me Charles, but
I was trying to think how long I've known you. I don't even know. Probably 20, close to 20 years. I don't know you that well because we haven't spent a lot of time together, but we've been around in the same spaces for a long time.
yeah, I think I've known you for at least 25 years back before the monopolize your marketplace.
Oh gosh, okay, you go way back there.
And I tell you, those I still have a set of those cassette or the DVDs, I guess they are, and learned a lot. A lot of who I am is a result of listening to those recordings way back when and then implementing
Yeah,
things
it's
I've
it's been a minute since those came out. I released my first book, Monopolize Your Marketplace, in 2004, but there were some audio CDs before that, and there was some cassettes before that. But let's let the audience know who you are. I'm sure most people have at least heard of you, if not know who you are very well. But you've been in this industry for a long, long time. You've had a lot of success with Renewal by Anderson, perhaps with some others. Why don't you give us a little background, your story, so you've got some street cred coming into this conversation.
Yeah, so I like to tell people I've been in this business for 60 years, and they say, "We don't look that old." I said, "Well, I'm older than I look, I guess." But no, I actually started when I was 10 years old. I grew up in Philadelphia, and like most, my dad was a fire captain in the city of Philadelphia, and all the policemen and firemen back then had second jobs because they didn't get paid enough with their regular job. So my dad was a handy guy, worked for a couple contractors doing roofing, siding, insulation, things like that. So when I was about 10 years old, he'd start taking me out on weekends or during the summer and started out as a gopher, go for this and go for that. And I loved working with my hands. And literally, when I was 11, 12 years old, I'm going out and learning how to hang aluminum siding and, use a portable sheet metal brake and put composition shingle roofing on. And so I did that all through high school. And then my dad was having a custom home built. And I got me a job working for the builders. I worked with all the different trades, bricklayers, concrete, drywall, plumbers, electricians, and learned a lot there. And then when I got into college, I didn't have a job, and I started picking up side jobs, doing mostly exterior and some interior home improvements. And when I got out of college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I had a lot of people wanting me to do work for them, so I kept doing home improvements in the Philadelphia area for about 3 years, and developed a home improvement business full time. And I got married and had a
Well, hold
daughter.
on. We'll get to your married in a minute. What did you study in college?
Business administration.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you at least gave yourself a foundation of business understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad, I guess my whole family was in fire department, most few were in the police, and I guess I always thought I want to be a fireman someday, And one day I talked to my dad and I said, "Would you be disappointed if I weren't a fireman?" He said, "No." I said, "I'd be disappointed if you were." Because I got this taste of being self-employed. Michael Gerber says I had my entrepreneurial seizure. And I listened to my dad and uncle talk about the politics of the fire department. Well, I loved the fire department, the politics and all that stuff turned me off. So just decided I'm going to start my own business, and I did. And then, but about 3 years later, got married and had a daughter, and all of a sudden I got very security conscious, and all my buddies that went to college are wearing coats and ties and are junior executives, and I'm out there, selling and installing home improvement. So kind of felt like maybe I need to do something else, and I wound up getting a job with Alcoa Building Products. They were headquartered in Pittsburgh, and I moved to Central Pennsylvania as a district manager. And I was there for a couple of years, and they moved me into the corporate office in Pittsburgh. And I was doing a lot of technical stuff and working a little bit with the marketing department. And we had this aluminum roofing product that we were trying to get off the ground, and spent a lot of time in Texas and Oklahoma, areas where wood shake and wood shingle roofs were really popular because that was our market. And I'd never been to California, and I came out here about 1980 for a trade show. And everywhere I looked, I saw wood shingle and wood shake roofs, and we didn't even have a distributor here in Southern California. And I thought, I found the mother lode here, and I tried to get people, distributors and dealers, to handle the product. No one was really interested, and finally, through a chain of events, I just said I'm going to do this myself. So, got my contractor's license in the fall of 1983, and beginning of 1984, I moved out here to Orange County and started a aluminum roofing specialist doing Alcoa aluminum roofing, a high-end product, selling, marketing, installing it, and 5 years later got into the replacement window business. That's as kind of an afterthought. And then by about 2000, the marketplace had changed quite a bit, and felt like the best opportunity was in windows and doors. So we phased out of the roofing business and just focused on the window and door business. And then in 2005, Renewal by Anderson talked to me about becoming, well, actually earlier than that, a couple of years earlier, we talked about becoming their affiliate here in Orange County, and actually signed an agreement with them, I think in November 2004. In March of 2005, we started marketing and selling Renewal by Anderson windows, and that changed my whole world, and the way we did business, and a very high-end product, the highest window door product in the market. And you know, went through the recession, which was an interesting time, '08, '09, '10, survived that. And then a gentleman from New York that I knew, David Moore, who's a owner of multiple Renewal by Anderson locations, approached me, and make a long story short, we partnered with him and wound up getting the entire metropolitan LA area, and grew the business. I mean, between the two locations we had, we were probably went from about 15 million to maybe 105 million from 2013 to 2021. 2019, Renewal by Anderson actually bought the businesses from us, and I stayed on as a general manager. And we, you know, had a 2-year agreement, stayed for one extra year, and retired at the end of 21.
Okay, so that's a long story, uh, but it ends up with you leaning into Renewal by Anderson with your partner. I think you said his name was Mike.
David Moore.
David.
Yeah.
David, Mike, one of those names. Okay, so David, and grew that up to $100 million plus. Um, and that was in an era when like everybody's doing 100 million now. I mean, that's nothing. It's just you got to be stupid to not be doing 100 million. Of course, I'm joking. It's still an extraordinarily impressive number, but there was an era like I'd say like 2015 to 2020, let's say, where the roll-ups hadn't really happened yet.
Right.
And if you're doing $100 million, you were in the top 10 on the top 500.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of growth. I mean, between the two locations, we had about 60, 65 sales reps, probably running about a comparable number of crews. And, we had LA County, Ventura County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and Orange County.
How many appointments were you running a day?
Oh, geez, between the two locations, there were days when we ran 70, 80 appointments.
Okay. So sold out in 2021 to Renewal by Anderson. They just essentially bought the territory back from you.
Correct.
Okay. So this is not a private equity kind of a deal.
No, no, no.
And
Renewal by Anderson, part of their model's always been they've had a small percentage of company-owned locations, maybe about 8 to 10%. The remainder are, independently owned, and they didn't have a retail location on the West Coast, and they wanted the LA market. There's more single-family homes in LA market than any other market in the country, and so it worked out for them. It worked out for me also. I mean, it kind of gave me an exit strategy that I didn't have prior to then.
yeah, okay. And this is going to be a segue, an intentional segue. During all of those years in the business, you seem to have learned some lessons. And I'm laughing right now because the reason I asked Charlie to come on was the backstory is phenomenal, but he's written a series of books. First book was called Lessons Learned. And then after that, a book immediately called Built to Last, which is a memoir. I'll let you talk about these in more detail, but just by way of introduction. And then more recently, a book called More Lessons Learned. I don't know if that's because you didn't fit all the lessons in the first book, or after you wrote the first book, you learned some additional lessons. But I want to dig into this and look. With all due respect, you're a retired gentleman. You've been in the industry a long time, and I'm trying to be polite and not say you're old, okay, man. But you've been around, and you like legitimately know stuff. And if we can pick your brain by reading the book, and I'm going to encourage everybody go to Amazon, just look up Charlie Gindele. You'll see lessons learned, build it to last, more lessons learned. But I want to pick your brain here, and just like people are listening, they want to know stuff. Tell us.
Yeah. So, kiddingly, I said, in different situations over my career, I'd say, boy, that's going to be a chapter in my book, just saying that for conversation. But as I was nearing retirement and the end of 21, I thought, I'm going to write a book. And so I sat down literally the day after I retired, January 1st, 2022, and I started writing a book. And eventually, when I got done what I
So to
thought,
heck with going and playing golf or something. Hey, I retired. I've got an idea. How about I just start working immediately
yeah,
the very next day?
well, people that know me know that my middle name is work, and that's just the way I am. And if I'm not working, I almost feel like I'm wasting my time. I mean, look, this industry's been good to me. I enjoy my life. I've got a very enjoyable life. I do what I want to do, kind of when I want to do it, and money's not really a problem. But I love the industry, and I started literally, you know, like I said, it's a gopher and worked my way up to running a very large, successful company. And along the way, you learn a lot of things. So the first book, Lessons Learned, I call it's my journey from contractor to business person because when I started, I was a contractor. When I worked with Alcoa, I got to travel around and I'd see home improvement contractors literally all over the country. And I used to say what I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I learned a lot just from observing and seeing what they were doing right and what they weren't doing right. And I'm always, you know, I'm always on a quest for knowledge and learning and kind of feel like, no matter what I know, there's more to learn. So when I wrote the book, the first book, I talked about it, and after being in business for 10 years, I thought I was a pretty darn good contractor. My customers got quality jobs, my employees were all taken care of. I took care of my vendors, but I kind of had an awakening that I really wasn't. I was a contractor. I was not a business person that owned a contracting company. And I think that's the biggest distinction. And a lot of people that I speak to now, they're contractors. And in some cases, they don't even have a business. They just created a job for themselves with a heck of a lot more liability and responsibility than if they were working for someone else. So I started to really focus on the numbers of the business and learning the KPIs and running my business by the numbers. And I started, doing business planning and making budgets and one thing I learned quickly was that there's definitely a relationship between the marketing dollars you spend and the sales you make and the revenue you produce. And I really became a student of marketing. I mean, a lot of the monopolize your marketplace stuff came into play, and I studied other retailers in my market, not necessarily home improvement companies, but I studied retailers that every weekend they get a reason to come in and buy a big screen TV or a spa or a car or whatever, and started to apply a lot of the lessons I learned to my business. And I kind of used to like to say I'm morphing from being a contractor to being a retailer of home improvement products. And started to grow a sales team, but marketing was really the lever. And one of the things that I see now is a lot of the people I talk to are not spending too much money. They're spending not enough money on their marketing. And they're, I think, indirectly, unconsciously limiting the growth of their business. And then you say, well, companies are spending 4, 5, 6, 7% on marketing, you know, but you're limiting yourself, and say you got to spend 10, 12, 15%. They look at you like you're crazy, but what they don't realize is you got to adjust your pricing so that your customer pays for your marketing. You don't pay for it. And, and then to become a premium provider in the market, you come to the realization you're going to be the highest or one of the most expensive companies in the market selling the products that you sell. And that's a lot of people can't get their head around that and they don't believe they can do it. So guess what? They don't do it. But learning those things and running the business by the numbers and realizing that marketing was the most essential part of the business and using marketing as a lever and then understanding that after a while, when you know your numbers, it becomes somewhat formulaic. If I spend X amount of dollars, I'm going to get this much back in sales and revenue. And if I spend two times that, I'm going to get two times that. And then the deeper you get into it, the more you look at the different channels of marketing, and some are passive, some are active, some are very proactive, and also having a very diversified marketing portfolio. And that's probably the single thing that really allowed us to grow was having a very diversified marketing portfolio and not being afraid of to spend 12, 13, 14, 15% of our revenue on marketing because our pricing was such that it covered the cost of that marketing.
Now, did you get your taste for selling high price stuff with the Alcoa products when you first came to California?
Yeah, when I came to California, we were selling this Alcoa aluminum roofing, and we were two, three times what other roofing alternatives were. So in order to justify that price, we had to educate our customers. We had to differentiate our marketing and our selling process, and then we had to build value. And not everybody was willing to buy a $30,000 roof when they could have bought a 10 or 12 or $15,000 roof. But fortunately, we found enough people that were willing to pay that price. And
This was in the early 80s, right?
what's that?
Early to mid 80s.
This was 84 to early to mid 90s.
Okay, so you're selling roofs for 2 to 3x. And not only that, you're selling roofs with a material that's largely, at least at the beginning, unknown in the market, right? It was all cedar shake and whatnot.
Right. And
So,
there was a market here for lightweight, non-combustible roofing because of the fire issues and all. And gradually over the years, wood shakes and wood shingles got outlawed. You'd be hard pressed to drive around Orange County now and see a wood shake or wood shingle roof. But 40 years ago, everywhere you looked, you saw either tile, which kind of lasts forever if it's installed right, and you saw wood shake. Fiberglass composite shingles weren't even allowed in a lot of areas because of the aesthetics. So the marketplace changed quite a bit, but so we were a kind of a pioneer doing that. We had an exclusive product and we marketed the heck out of it and sold the heck out of it. And I
so
think I did
you,
3,800 roofs in that time.
I'm just trying to get inside your head at that particular juncture of your career. You're sitting there on the East Coast or Dallas or wherever you were, looking at this product, going, "This is fantastic. Here's a market that needs it. They don't even know what it is. It's a lot more expensive." But I'm just trying to like get your motivations as you get into the later part of your career. You, I'm putting words in your mouth.
Sure.
I've got this awesome product that if I can just help people understand what it is, they're going to buy the heck out of it. It's going to make me a lot of money. It's going to make their life better. And you did that for whatever, let's say roughly 10 years until the RBA opportunity came along. Again, like you mentioned earlier, highest price window in the market. And you probably looked at that and went, "Hey, no problem. That's my calling card."
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I used to when I was working for Alcoa, I did a lot of traveling, and I felt like every time I got an airplane to go somewhere, I was helping somebody solve a problem or make money. And finally, I was 29 years old, and I just saw this opportunity in Southern California. I thought, if not now, when? And I didn't want to live 10, 20, 30 years and look back with regret. So I took a big leap of faith. I guess I had enough confidence in myself, and I moved out here, and with another gentleman who helped me, and we started this business, and we grew it. And then actually, the replacement window thing came along about 5 years later. I was approached by a guy who was just starting to manufacture and distribute vinyl windows in Southern California, which in 1989, 1990 was a whole new idea. And quite frankly, I had doubts about it. I mean, I came from the East Coast and I understood why thermally improved windows made sense there. But in Southern California, the climate's more mild. And he said to me, he said, you guys developed a heck of a reputation for marketing and selling this high-end roofing product. He said, I think windows are a natural fit. So I wasn't really sure. And we test market it. We send out about 50 letters a week to past customers, just saying, hey, we got this new product. We'd like to come show it to you, tell you about it. And we went out there and I went out doing some sales calls and pitched the product, but I listened to what the problems the customers had, the pain, the problems that they were having, and felt the product was a solution. And I said, what will you pay for a job? And I just let the first probably 5, 10 customers tell me, name your price and I'll do the job for that. Just because I wanted to get my foot in the door, no pun intended, and I wanted to learn. And we started learning and we built processes and systems on the replacement windows, just like we did for the roofing. And replacement windows in 1989 in Southern California were kind of like it's an unknown market. No one even, everybody broke out the stucco and had new construction type windows installed. No one was installing replacement windows. So we kind of pioneered that market. We grew that market to the point where I felt like by the late 90s, the roofing business is changing. And I saw the opportunity with windows. So we got into the really heavily into the window and door business, phased out of roofing and then it was about 5, 6 years later that Renewable Anderson came along.
So, how old were you when you became a millionaire?
Probably 38, 40, somewhere in there.
Okay, 'cause it's an interesting question to me because if we were to take 25-year-old Charlie Gindele, not with your wealth of experience that you have after your whole career, but just with your go-getter kind of attitude, and we were to drop you into 2024, you'd probably become a millionaire within about 2 years.
Well,
But it was harder back then.
today I have no doubt. Back then it was harder, but and $1 million a day is different than it was, 20 years ago. But I just think part of it is mindset, and I always had the mindset, and then the skill sets I've learned along the way.
Have you
And I think
ever
that having the right mindset drives you to learn the skill sets.
have you ever read the biographies of any of the following individuals? Number one, Walt Disney.
Yes,
Number two, Steve Jobs.
yes.
Number three, Phil Knight, the Nike guy.
Oh, yeah, that's a great story.
And I think these guys are all a little bit older than you are, but out of similar era, certainly Walt Disney's a lot older than even the other two. But here's why I bring it up, because I read those biographies. I've read many others, but those three stick out to me, where these guys were building businesses in an era where it was hard to make money because there was financing was not available, and even as they were growing their business, like Phil Knight with Nike, I'd have to go back and check the notes. I don't think that guy was a millionaire until darn near Michael Jordan came along.
Yeah,
And Walt Disney, I don't know if you remember his story. Oh my gosh, I think he was like 52 or something.
yeah,
And he finally got all this money. It was a really sad story. He bought his parents a house because he wanted to, show his gratitude, and they died because it had a carbon monoxide leak.
yeah,
That was, I'm sorry to laugh, but uh, I really admire the entrepreneurs in any industry, but in this industry especially. I talked to the likes of Brian Elias, who's done very well, and others. There's certainly several of them, and I just think it's so much easier now to do well in business. And back in those days, man, it was just freaking hustle your guts out. But you managed to not just hustle your guts out, but to put the systems in place. So some of those lessons learned about systems and people, why don't you share those with us?
Well, people is critical. People are critical. There's only so much you could be the smartest guy around and have all the talent in the world, but there's only so much a person can do. And early on, I realized that, and I realized that for me to grow the business, Uh, I had to start teaching and training and actually stepping back and letting other people do things and be willing to let them make mistakes, not because they wanted to make mistakes, because it was part of their learning curve. And I think the mistake a lot of business owners make is thinking that they know how to do it best and no one can do it as well as they can. And also, a lot of business owners are control freaks. They have to have absolute control. And to grow the business, you got to find good people and you got to be willing to give up some control, not abdicate, but delegate. And that's one of the things that really guided me in trying to find good people. And then when you find good people, you want to keep them. And also, those people want to grow too. So, in order to provide opportunities for them, you got to keep growing the business. And that was the big motivator for me was once I attracted some really quality people, I wanted to keep providing opportunities for them. And after a while, it's like a tree; it just keeps branching out. So there's no substitute for finding great people. And then in lessons learned, I talk about, some of the things that I used to, interviewing and advertising and interviewing from a behavioral basis and disc profiling. And then I think hand in hand with that goes the company culture, building a culture where people want to work there and they want to build careers. I had two folks that worked for me for 36 years. We had a long list of people worked for us for 15 and 20 and 25 years. You could build a career at this business. So, and giving them opportunities to grow financially as well as, use their talents. And,
Did you
when I
profit share with
started,
these people?
what's that?
Did you profit share with these people? Did they have bonus structures, or how did you compensate
We
them?
we pretty much always had incentives or bonus programs, and we introduced profit sharing in 1996. And some years the profit sharing was good, some years it wasn't so good. Uh, but I think more than that, people want to work for a company that they believe in. They want to know where the company's going. They want to know what the vision is. They want to work for a company that they know has integrity. And I have this saying that, we had a lot of requirements of the people that worked for us, but one of the requirements I never had of any employee was that they have the ability to read my mind. And what I mean by that is it was my responsibility to lead them and my responsibility to communicate with them and tell them what was expected of them, give them the tools necessary, support them along the way, give them feedback, and then share with them not only how they were doing personally, but how the company was doing. I learned this back in 1996, Rich, for the first time ever. I had a kickoff meeting in my company and I had every employee there, and we laid out the goals for 1996 because that's the first year I ran my company with a business plan. And from 1996 to 2021, every January we had a kickoff meeting where all employees were there and we laid out the goals and the vision and strategies and tactics for that year. And then every month, starting in February, we had a monthly follow-up meeting where we reported back to the entire rank and file our progress towards achieving those goals. So the goal, we laid them out in January, and then the next 11 months, we reported back to them on how we were doing. And, most people, I think, operate under the premise no news is good news. So if things weren't going as well as they could have, you used to think somebody would be telling us. But in reality, a lot of times that's not the case. And when I had a problem, or we had a problem as a business, I felt it was all of our problems to solve, not just me. And there's an old saying that a lot of hands make for a light load. So, we went through the recession and I had people digging down deeper and sales reps working harder and installers working harder and my admin staff. And, we weathered the storm. I had 35 competitors that went out of business between 2008 and 2012. And all of those pretty much sold what they sold for less money than we sold ours, than we sold our products. And then another thing I think is the culture in the company. And I heard this definition years ago, and I believe it's very true that the culture of the business is all the positive behaviors you encourage and reward, minus the negative behaviors that you allow and tolerate. And a lot of people tolerate poor performance, they tolerate negative behaviors. Whether it's attitude or the performance, whether it's production or sales or whatever. So if you think about that, a lot of times we don't encourage or reward the positive behaviors, and we just seem to tolerate the negative behaviors, and that's ingrained in the culture of your company. I always wanted an organization of high performers, people that felt they were the best and they were going to deliver the best experience for our customers, and I always tried to pay them what they were worth, if not pay them more. Uh, and that recipe worked for me for many years.
So you ran this business. Was it two different businesses, Renewal by Anderson, that each of you owned a piece of, or was it just one big business?
Uh, the renewal by Anderson, I became the affiliate in '05, and then David Moore, who owns multiple renewal by Anderson locations, partnered with me in 2013, and he brought some resources and things that I didn't have, and that gave us we're coming out. I mean, my whole thing getting through the recession from '08 to 2010 was I just want to survive, live to fight another day because, it's tough times. And especially we got hit hard here in Southern California, foreclosures and, retailers going out of business. And for a while there, I felt like if I had all the money in the world, I wouldn't know how to spend it to generate a lead because it's like going fishing in the lake where you got the best bait and tackle, but there's no fish in the lake.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was just homeowners were reluctant to spend their money. They didn't know if they were going to lose their home and get laid off, and I just didn't have confidence. So interesting story there is I actually scaled my business back, and knowing the numbers of the business, we kept downsizing, right sizing. That was a key word back then. Everybody's right sizing their business, right? Well, that's a fancy name for downsizing. But I finally got my business. We were doing 15 million in 2004, and we dropped back to about 5 million or so in 2009. We kept downsizing, right sizing, but I finally got the company to break even at about $375,000 a month. And that was primarily off of business we could count on from past customers coming back and buying more and referrals and a little bit of internet business. And once we got down to the break even point, we weren't spending a whole lot on marketing. We were getting all this business from our customers, and it sustained us. The old story, you take care of your customers and they'll take care of you. Well, in my case, that was very true. Really took care of our customers, and they came back and bought additional jobs and referred us and allowed us to weather the storm and then
Well,
start
you
growing.
said 35 of your competitors went out of business during that time, very likely did not have that customer base to draw on and keep them alive.
Well, between not taking care of their customers, but also not charging the right price and not really running their business by the numbers. I can't emphasize that. I mean, knowing your gross profit, knowing your break even point, understanding overhead, understanding, what just going out and selling the jobs for the right price. And when you do that, you're going to be the highest or one of the highest. And, you either believe that's the right price, or if you don't sell it for that. And, you can't lose a little bit on every job and make it up in volume, so that's what a lot of people do though.
Yeah, I worked with a company in there was a Four Seasons sunroom dealer, and they were the number one dealer in the whole country. I went and spoke at their Cabo meeting. I think it was like '07, right before the recession.
Mhm.
Recession hit. This company was not run well. Large volume of business, but they were not run well. A lot of shoddy crap going on there. They didn't last 6 months into the recession. Number one Four Seasons dealer, gone,
Yeah.
just gone. So
I mean, I'll say this, there's a lot of newer folks in the business in the last 7, 8, 9 years, and they don't know what the recession was like. I mean, that I think separated the men from the boys back then. It was a tough time.
yeah, I was lucky enough to get into this industry, obviously as an agency in '05, really got my footing in '06 and '07, just in time to hit the recession. So imagine not only trying to generate leads, but trying to charge other people money to help them generate leads. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah, it really was. I hope to never experience that again in my lifetime.
Okay, well, let's talk about your books for just a minute here, and then we'll wrap it up. We've got lessons learned. and build it to last. Talk about that book, how it started out as one book and then it got separated into two.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to write a book, and so I sat down, like I said, the day after I retired and started writing a book. And about 4 months later, I got done, and it was about 350, 380 pages long. So I sent it to a friend of mine. A lot of people probably know in the industry, Brian Cascavasi. And I said, Brian, take a look at this and ask me what you think. So Brian looked a couple of weeks later, he called me back and said, Charlie, no one's going to read this. And that like burst my bubble. And I said, what do you mean no one's going to read? He said, well, it's just too long. He said, I really think you have two books here. I think you have a business book, and I think the other one is a memoir. So he said, let me play around with them a little bit. So he played around and sent it back to me and said, take a look at this. And so we just moved chapters around, and then there was a few holes and we filled those in. And so in 2022 we come out with both of them. So lessons learned on my journey from contractor to business person is the business book. And then Build It to Last is my memoir, but it's got a lot of business stuff in there. And you can read one without reading the other, but if you read them both, they kind of synergistically go together. And I got a lot of good feedback from that. And I do some coaching and training and teaching within the industry. And, and I love helping people. So a couple of years later, Brian asked me to do a presentation at one of his conferences. And he said, you had tremendous growth in the last 10 years of your business. Could you maybe, do a presentation on that? So I really reflected back on from 2013 to 2021 and went from 8 or 9 million to 48 million, and all the lessons that I learned there and the things that I stopped doing and started doing. And I did a presentation, and Brian came up to me afterwards. He said, that was fantastic. He says, that's a book right there. So that kind of got me thinking. And then
And Charlie thought, well, I'm retired. I got some time.
yeah, you won't find me on a golf course, I'll tell you that much. Uh, but anyway, so I wrote the other book, which just came out October 1st. And so it's more for someone who's been in the business and they want to accelerate their growth. But the second chapter or the third chapter is called what I call gotta haves. And to me, if you're going to grow your business, you got to have certain fundamental things in place. And that whole chapter talks about those fundamental things. And then the second chapter is actually called a cautionary tale. And people should read that because a lot of people think they're going to grow their way into success or grow their way into profitability by focusing on growing their sales, growing their revenue. But uh, if you have what a lot of companies are not really positioned and built to scale. And if you don't have the company built right, structured right, the right things in place, uh, theoretically on a spreadsheet, you can show yourself growing into profitability. But in reality, it's going to be next to impossible. So you got to really have the gotta haves in place. And once you get the gotta haves in place, you build a business that's scalable. And so I tell a story about a company that I was involved with I did a financial mastermind way back in 2021, 2001, I think. And there was a company that came in there and the guy did $2.5 million a year before and lost a couple 100,000. And he had a whole list of things that, didn't have any money, he couldn't get good help, and just a lot of problems. But on paper, he was going to double his business the next year and go from 2.5 to 5.2, and he was going to make money. Well, theoretically, that was right, but there's no way he could have ever done that. Doubled his business and made the money. And even then, he wasn't going to make that much money. So the lesson there is, don't try to grow a broken business, fix it first and then grow it. Because if you try to grow a broken business, you're going to have a much larger, much more broken business, and it might put you out of business.
Yeah, you're going to grow your problems along with your business.
Exactly. So get a good structure, get the gotta haves in place. And then from there, I go on talking about, how to invest your time wisely. And a lot of us contractors are ADD or ADHD, and how do you really learn to focus and, prioritize your time management? And then, what's borrowed a little bit from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. What's your hedgehog concept? Understanding, really what your hedgehog concept and having a singleness of purpose, not trying to be all things to all people. And there's a lot of things in business that you can do, but just because you can do them doesn't mean you should do them. Or even because you can make money doing them doesn't mean you should do them. You got to really know what your hedgehog concept is and what you're focusing on. And then after that, I talk about an abundance of leads and what that really means in a diversified marketing portfolio. Uh, and talk a little bit about company culture and what I call getting your team tuned in and turned on to what, tuned into what you're trying to do, and then turned on, get them excited about it, and then, reporting back to them and that whole process. And I kind of lay out what I see as a formula for accelerating the growth of your business. And then ultimately, talk about superpowers. I mean, I'm not Superman by any stretch of the imagination, but if I have any superpowers, it's this, that I learn every day, I implement. I see a lot of people, learning things, but they never implement what they learn. So you got to take action. You have to implement. You have to be a communicator. You have to communicate. You can't expect people to read your mind, and that's all the people around you. And even if you're not a communicator, you got to realize that the people on your team listen to what you say, but they also listen to what you don't say. They watch what you do and they watch what you don't do. Brian Gottlieb in his new book talks about the echo of your voice and how your voice echoes out within the business. It's the same thing, so you got to be very cognizant of that, getting the right people on the bus, grooming them. And the reality of it is when you grow a business, sometimes it's not, it's unfortunate in a way, you're going to leave some people behind. There's some people not capable of growing. And if you can't find a seat for them on the bus, you got to move on from them. Uh, and you got to hire smart people. Uh, and then, this whole business is about leaving a legacy, and what's the legacy that you're building with your business, and then how far out in the community your business ripples, how many people are impacted. I have this saying that you know there's employees and team members going to bed tonight, and their spouses and their family members that are really dependent upon the owners of these businesses, and they don't even know they're dependent upon it. They just expect to get up tomorrow and have leads and have jobs, and you know, so that's an awesome responsibility as a business owner to understand how far out into the community your business ripples and how many people you impact. And then I closed up the book with what I call the 20-20-20 challenge, or join the 20-20-20 club. And the 20-20 club is have sustained growth of at least 20% a year. Every year, get at least 20% of your leads from new lead sources and have a sustained bottom line of at least 20% operating profit. And the challenge is to do that and to do it 3 consecutive years. Some people told me that's impossible. It's not impossible because I did it in my business. And if I can do it, other people can do it. And I know other people that have done it also. And along the way of that 20-20-20 club challenge, you wind up building a hell of a business. And I tell people, look, if the 20-20-20 thing seems impossible, just work on 10-10-10, then move up to 15-15-15, But
Yeah.
I've done it, and I know people that have done, 20% annual growth, 20% of your leads from new lead sources you never used before every year, and then a 20% bottom line.
That is a formula. So the book is More Lessons Learned. So what would you recommend if somebody said, I hear you, Charlie, you got 3 books. You sound like a cool guy, but I'm not reading 3 books. I'll read one though. Which one would you suggest?
Well, so the answer to that is this. If you're newer in business, or if you're been in business for a while, but you feel like you're stuck, like you're really not growing, read Lessons Learned, My Journey from Contractor to Businessman. Or if that registers with you and you think, geez, I'm a damn good contractor, but I'm not that good of a businessman, read Lessons Learned. If you've been in business for a while and you're having a degree of success and you're profitable, but you think there's more opportunity and you want to scale your business and grow it, then read More Lessons Learned.
Okay. And I'm looking at the subtitle of More Lessons Learned, and it's pretty clear right on there how to accelerate the growth. So
Yeah.
it assumes that there's some growth already there. Now we're going to accelerate it, take it perhaps to the next level.
Right. And I put the chapter about cautionary tale and the chapter about gotta haves, I put those in there on purpose because if you really should be reading lessons learned and you pick up this one, then I don't want you trying to scale your business if you don't have those, the right structure in place and you don't have those gotta haves in place.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing, and more lessons learned, the first chapter I talk about what I call danger zone. And if you remember the movie Top Gun and then Top Gun Maverick was out a couple years. The song that comes on at the beginning of the movie is Danger Zone, sung by
Yeah.
Kenny Loggins. But the context there is that they take these young naval aviators and these guys think they're infallible and they're going to take they fly these planes to 9 Gs and they want them to go to the danger zone, because they got to take their piloting skills and their mindset to the danger zone. Well, a lot of times in life, what I found is, we tend to settle into a comfort zone as human beings, and no one wants to be uncomfortable, so we're all kind of comfortable. But that doesn't mean that that's the most comfortable zone. And all of us can take our life and our business to another level. But in order to do that, you got to get out of the comfort zone you're in and you got to get into your danger zone. And your danger zone is learning how to lead, learning the financial, marketing, sales, production, learning all the aspects of the business and taking that to a level you've never gone to before, which is your danger zone. And then once you're there, you say, yeah, that wasn't so bad. And now you're in a new, higher, better comfort zone. And it's a series of taking those steps from comfort zone to danger zone to comfort zone to danger zone that you really grow as a person. And also, I think you certainly grow your business. And guess what? You bring a lot of people along with you. So you help them grow also.
Well, I'm gonna have my podcast producer Stu do an outro to this conversation with that Kenny Loggins song. So that'll be fun. Hey, Charlie, good to have a chance to talk to you. I really want to encourage everybody to get these books. I am on Amazon right now. That's where you can find it. Probably find it other places, but Amazon, there it is right there. I'm going to start with more lessons learned. That sounds like it's right for me in my stage of business. Of course, I'm not a home improvement contractor. I'm a marketing agency, but I really want to check that out. So thanks for your time
Yeah.
today. Any last words for the audience?
No, I would just, I have a saying. I used to share this with my employees every day. And I'd say when you put your head on the pillow at night, you should be smarter and wiser than when you took it off of the pillow that morning. So every day is an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. And that's one of the things that propelled me. I'm a very inquisitive, curiosity type of guy, and I know that, you know, one of my favorite sayings is the closer you get to the top, you realize there is no top. And I think that could be that way in life and also in business.
All right, Charlie, thanks so much. If people want to check you out, they can Google you, Charlie Gindele. You do have a website, and again, your books are available
Yeah.
on Amazon. So thanks for
Yeah.
joining me today, Charlie. We'll talk to you next time.
It's my pleasure. Always enjoy it. Take care.